I barely survived a horrific car crash. Then I found out my wife planned the whole thing to collect my $500,000 life insurance and run away with her lover. I always thought the worst day of my life would be something simple. A layoff, a bad diagnosis, or maybe the death of a loved one. But I never thought it would happen on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Before we dive into this intense story, we have a small favor to ask. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. It's always incredible to see how far our stories reach. Thank you so much. Now let's dive in. The kind of rain that blurs your windshield and makes the road slick like glass. My name's Ethan Carter, 34 years old, married for 8 years to my high school sweetheart, Rachel. She was everything I thought I ever wanted. Beautiful, driven, kind, or at least, I thought she was. That afternoon, we were driving home from a weekend trip to visit her parents. A 3-hour drive filled with the usual, small talk, podcasts, and awkward silences that had grown more frequent over the past year. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but I chalked it up to the usual wear and tear. Jobs, bills, life. The rain was relentless, slamming against the windshield as I focused on the road ahead. Rachel sat beside me, scrolling through her phone, the faint glow of the screen lighting up her face. She was smiling, not at me, but at whatever was on that damn screen. I didn't think much of it, until she chuckled under her breath. "What's so funny?" I asked, trying to break the weird tension that had been building all trip. She quickly locked her phone. "Oh, nothing. Just a meme." But something about the way she said it. Flat, rehearsed, like she'd practiced the line. Before I could press further, the car in front of us slammed on its brakes. "Ethan, watch out!" I yanked the steering wheel hard, tires skidding across the wet asphalt. The car spun, once, twice, before the world went white with impact. Glass shattered, metal crunched, and then silence. When I came to, I was upside down. The car had flipped. The windows were shattered, rain pouring in through the broken glass. The air was thick with smoke and that burnt smell that always lingers after a crash. I blinked hard, vision blurring in and out. "Rachel?" I croaked. No answer. Panic surged through me as I twisted, ignoring the sharp pain ripping through my ribs. Rachel was slumped in her seat, blood running down the side of her forehead, her phone dangling from her hand. "Rachel!" I shouted, reaching out. She stirred, groaning. "Ethan, what?" But I wasn't focused on her anymore, because her phone screen had lit back up. And there it was. A text thread. The name at the top? Liam. And the message, clear as day, even through my haze. "I can't wait until he's out of the picture. This weekend was perfect. I wish it was you in that car with me instead of him." My breath caught, everything blurred. Not from the accident, but from pure blinding rage. I sat there, blood dripping into my eyes, my body aching, and realized my wife, the woman I just risked my life for, wasn't just texting a friend. She was having an affair. And whoever Liam was, she wanted him here instead of me. The rain poured harder. The sirens echoed in the distance. And all I could think was, this accident didn't break my life. It exposed it. The hospital room was suffocatingly quiet. The kind of sterile silence that amplifies the chaos in your head. I lay there, bruised, bandaged, with a pounding headache and cracked ribs, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the storm inside me. The text. "I can't wait until he's out of the picture. This weekend was perfect. I wish it was you in that car with me instead of him." That message from Liam had burned into my brain the moment I saw it on Rachel's cracked phone screen. Just before the paramedics pulled us from the wreckage. But here's the thing. Her phone was gone. I never saw it again after the crash. The paramedics focused on getting us both out. No time to grab personal belongings. And I was too disoriented to say anything about it. But that text, it haunted me. Rachel and I weren't even in the same room at the hospital. The nurses told me she was recovering a floor below, a mild concussion and a few cuts, but nothing serious. I figured she'd visit, that she'd walk into my room, maybe even try to explain what I'd seen. She didn't. Not once. 2 whole days passed. No flowers, no texts, no, "How are you holding up?" Just cold, empty space. The third morning, a nurse walked in, her expression a careful mix of pity and curiosity, the kind that tells you she's been talking about you in the break room. "Mr. Carter, your wife checked out this morning?" I blinked at her. "She what?" "Left against medical advice. Said she was fine, but—" She hesitated. "She didn't seem in a hurry to come see you." That was when my gut twisted. Something was off. Rachel was always the one who fussed over the smallest things, a paper cut, a stubbed toe, and now she was walking out of a hospital like nothing happened. She's hiding something, I thought. By the time I was discharged, my mind was a war zone. I needed proof. If the text was real, if I hadn't imagined it through the haze of the accident, It meant something deeper was happening. I headed home, my body aching, head still spinning, but there was one place I knew Rachel wouldn't have thought about: the iPad. It was synced to her phone. I barely made it through the door before I was at the kitchen counter, unlocking the dusty old tablet we barely used. The Messages app lit up, and there it was, the thread with Liam. I scrolled, my hands trembling. There were weeks of messages, flirty, desperate, plans to meet at hotels, and then the ones leading right up to the crash. Rachel: I can't keep doing this. He's starting to get suspicious. Liam: don't worry, soon it'll just be us. Rachel: I feel trapped. I can't breathe around him anymore. Liam: it'll all work out, trust me. And then, 2 hours before the crash, Liam: just remember what we talked about. You've got this. Rachel: I'm scared, Liam. What if something goes wrong? Liam: it won't. Just stay calm. By tonight, this will all be behind you. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just an affair. This was something bigger, something dangerous. Rachel wasn't home, not a trace of her, but her car was in the driveway. Same dents from the crash, same shattered headlight. She was close. I texted her: I know about Liam. I know everything. Meet me at the house. No more lies. For 20 minutes, silence. Then, Rachel: I'm on my way. When she walked through the door, she didn't look like the woman I'd married. There was a sharpness in her eyes, a cold calculation I hadn't seen before. You went through my stuff, she snapped, the moment she saw the iPad in my hands. I ignored it. Who the hell is Liam, Rachel? She hesitated, a flicker of fear, then tried to play it cool. It was a stupid mistake. It didn't mean anything. I shoved the iPad toward her. Didn't mean anything? You were planning something, Rachel. The texts don't lie. Her face crumbled for a split second. Pure guilt. But then she composed herself. It wasn't what you think. I laughed bitterly. Of course, because what I think is that you and Liam were planning for me to be out of the picture, permanently. Her jaw clenched. I never wanted you to get hurt. Never wanted me to get hurt? That was all I needed. Rachel, was the accident really an accident? I whispered. Her eyes darted toward the door. She was about to run, but I was faster. I blocked her path. You're not leaving this house until I get the truth, she finally cracked. It wasn't supposed to go like this, she whispered. And right then, I realized the crash wasn't bad luck. It was intentional. It wasn't supposed to go like this, Rachel whispered, her voice trembling. Her confession hung in the air like thick smoke. I stared at her, my hands shaking. Then how was it supposed to go, Rachel? Because it looks a hell of a lot like you tried to get rid of me. She opened her mouth, then shut it again, like the weight of her own lie had finally become too much. And that's when I noticed it. The flicker in her eyes. She's about to run. I stepped closer, blocking the front door, but in my bruised and broken state, I wasn't quick enough. Rachel lunged sideways, knocking a glass off the table as a distraction. It shattered against the hardwood floor, and before I could react, she slipped past me, her feet pounding against the porch steps. Rachel, stop! I shouted, my ribs screaming in protest as I stumbled after her, but she was already in her car. Tires screeched as she peeled out of the driveway. I stood there, breathless, watching her taillights vanish down the street. You coward, I muttered, feeling the rage bubble inside me. But I wasn't about to let her vanish without answers. For hours, I sat at my kitchen table, the iPad still in front of me, scrolling through the endless string of Rachel's texts with Liam. Each message twisted the knife deeper, but I was looking for something else now. Details, names, places, anything. Then I found it, buried deep in the conversation history. Rachel, I'll meet you at the Ridgeview Motel after the accident. You know where it is. Liam, already booked a room, same one as last time. The Ridgeview Motel, cheap, out of the way. Exactly the kind of place someone would go to hide. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my keys, despite my body screaming in pain, and headed straight there. It was dusk when I pulled into the dusty parking lot. The neon sign flickered weakly, half the letters dead. There were only a handful of cars, one of them a beat-up gray Honda with a university parking sticker on the windshield. Liam. I limped inside. The clerk barely looked up from his ancient computer when I asked, Room 214, is it still booked? Who's asking? He grunted. Family, I lied. A shrug. Still checked in. Haven't seen him all day, though. I didn't wait. Room 214 was upstairs, overlooking the back lot. I stood outside the door for a moment, hand hovering over the knob. My heart raced so hard it drowned out every other sound. What the hell am I about to walk into? I twisted the knob, unlocked. The door creaked open to a cold, musty-smelling room. Curtains drawn tight. There were 2 duffel bags on the bed, but no one inside. But the TV, still on. I stepped forward, and that's when I saw it. A stack of printed papers scattered across the nightstand, flight itineraries, fake IDs, and a letterhead I recognized instantly, Heritage Life Insurance. I froze. It was a payout form. Rachel had filed for a life insurance claim, in my name. But the kicker? The claim was filed the day before the accident. My entire body went cold. This wasn't just an affair, it was a plan, a setup. Rachel and Liam had been planning my death. I didn't even know I'd picked up my phone until I heard the dial tone. I called the police. As I was on hold, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Unknown. You shouldn't have come here, Evan. Unknown. Now you know too much. I whipped around, scanning the lot, but there was no one. The message buzzed again. Unknown. This isn't over. My stomach twisted. They weren't running anymore. They were coming for me. The paperwork crumpled in my hand as I stood alone in that grimy motel room. The life insurance claim, the fake IDs, the flight tickets. It was all there. Undeniable proof. Rachel and Liam hadn't just been cheating. They had planned to kill me. And the worst part? They almost succeeded. My phone buzzed again. Another message from the same unknown number. Unknown. You shouldn't have looked, Evan. Now we have to finish what we started. The air in the room thickened. Every sound outside, a car door slamming, a siren wailing in the distance, felt sharper, more dangerous. They knew I was onto them. I shoved the documents into my backpack and bolted, my battered body screaming in protest with every step. I wasn't safe. Not here, not anywhere. I drove for hours, ditching my car in a crowded mall parking lot and renting a cheap, nondescript sedan from a place that didn't ask too many questions. The last thing I needed was Liam spotting me before I was ready. I pulled into an abandoned warehouse on the edge of town, one of those places half the city forgot about. It was the perfect spot. No cameras, no witnesses. I texted Rachel from a burner phone. Me. I know everything. I have the documents. Meet me at the old dock at midnight, alone. If you ever loved me, come clean before I hand this to the cops. A pause, then her reply. Rachel, you don't understand. I'll be there. I stared at the message. She was still lying, but that was fine, because I wasn't planning on going there alone. The dock was eerily quiet. The water, black and glassy, reflected the full moon, and the wind whipped cold against my face. I sat in my car, engine off, watching the dark road that led in. 12:04 a.m., headlights. Rachel's silver SUV crawled down the dirt path, its beams cutting through the fog. She parked 100 feet away and stepped out. Leather jacket, boots crunching on gravel, her blonde hair tied back. She looked calm, too calm, but she wasn't alone. Liam emerged from the passenger side. Figures. He was tall, smug, and carried the kind of arrogance that screamed, I've gotten away with worse. I gripped the bat I'd stashed under the seat. You just couldn't let it go, huh? Liam's voice echoed as they approached. Rachel's eyes darted between me and the shadows. Evan, I never wanted it to get this far. Her voice cracked, but I wasn't buying it. Bullshit, Rachel. You filed a life insurance claim a day before the accident. This wasn't a mistake. It was the plan. Liam chuckled. You were never supposed to find out, but since you did, he lifted something from under his jacket. A crowbar, gleaming under the moonlight. Of course. But before Liam could take a step, flashing red and blue lights lit up the dock. Police sirens blared as cars swarmed the lot. Rachel's face twisted in horror. You called the cops? You think I'm that stupid? I sneered. Detective Hawthorne stepped out of his cruiser, gun raised. Drop it, now! Liam hesitated, just long enough for an officer to tackle him to the ground, the crowbar skidding across the concrete. Rachel stood frozen, tears welling in her eyes, but I wasn't moved. You planned to kill me for money, I hissed. And for what? So you and your side piece could live it up on some island? I didn't want to, she sobbed. Liam, he forced me. Save it for the judge. They cuffed her, both of them dragged into separate cruisers. Weeks passed. The trials were brutal. The insurance fraud, the attempted murder. It was all laid out in court. The jury didn't need much convincing. Liam got 25 years without parole. Rachel, 10 years. Less than she deserved, but enough that she'd be forgotten by the time she got out. I sold the house, moved to a different city, started fresh. But every so often I still think about that night, about the weight of betrayal, about the wife I thought I knew, and the man I could have died for, without even realizing he wanted me gone. If you've made it this far, let me leave you with this. Trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. I missed the signs, but in the end, I survived, and that's more than they planned for. Would you have forgiven Rachel? Was Evan right to expose everything, or should he have walked away quietly? Can trust ever be rebuilt after a betrayal this deep? Drop your thoughts in the comments, like if you believe betrayal deserves justice.